Some nights change everything. For Elena Cross, it was the night she heard a woman ordering a hit on her own fiancé, casually, like she was picking out wine. Most people would have pretended not to hear. Most people would have looked away. Elena wrote a note instead. 4 words on a napkin that saved a crime lord's life and destroyed her own. Because Adrian Volkov doesn't forget debts. And the people who wanted him dead? They don't forgive witnesses. What started as one impulsive choice became a war she never asked for, but might be the only one who could survive. Before we dive into Elena's story, if you're enjoying this, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. Now, let's begin. The Skyline Room wasn't the kind of place Elena Cross belonged, and she knew it every second of her shift. Crystal chandeliers caught the light like trapped stars. White tablecloths cost more than her monthly rent. The guests wore watches that could pay off her father's medical bills 3 times over, and they barely glanced at the people serving them. Elena had learned to move through spaces like this as if she were invisible, shoulders back, eyes down, smile professionally blank. She'd been working at the restaurant for 8 months, long enough to recognize the regulars, long enough to know which tables tipped well and which ones treated servers like furniture, long enough to realize that rich people said things around staff they'd never say in front of each other. Tonight felt different, though, tense, the kind of tension that made the air feel too thick. Elena balanced a tray of champagne flutes and wound between tables, her black shoes silent on the polished floor. Friday nights were always busy, but tonight the dining room hummed with a specific kind of energy. More security than usual. Men in expensive suits with the wrong kind of bulges under their jackets. Women dripping in jewelry that probably had its own insurance policy. Table 12 was her problem table tonight. 4 people. 2 men, 2 women. The kind of beautiful that came from money and good genetics and probably a surgeon's steady hand. The older man sat at the head, mid-40s, dark hair going silver at the temples, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Elena's car. Everything about him looked sharp, controlled. The kind of man who could smile at you while deciding whether you lived or died. Adrian Volkov. She'd heard his name whispered in the kitchen. Whispered, not spoken. That told her enough. Next to him sat a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Mid-30s, blonde hair and a flawless updo, red dress cut to make men stupid. Irina something. Elena had caught the name earlier. The way she touched Volkov's arm, possessive, practiced, said fiancé or something close to it. The other 2 Elena didn't recognize. Another man, younger, with Volkov's same sharp jawline and cold eyes. And a second woman, brunette, quieter, watching everything like she was memorizing it. Elena approached the table with fresh champagne. "You're Cristal," she said, setting down glasses with the careful precision she'd perfected. "Don't make eye contact too long. Don't insert yourself into their conversation. Be a ghost." "Finally," Irina said without looking at her. "I was beginning to think they'd forgotten us entirely." Elena smiled that professional smile. "My apologies. Can I get you anything else?" "Privacy would be nice," the younger man said. His voice had an accent, sharper than Volkov's, Russian, maybe. "You can leave the bottle." Elena set the champagne down and turned to go. "Actually," Irina said, her voice suddenly sweet as poison, "we'll take another round of oysters. The Kumamoto, not whatever garbage you brought last time." They'd been fine last time, but Elena just nodded. Of course. She walked toward the kitchen, already feeling the weight of the evening pressing down. 3 more hours. Then she could go home, check on her father, collapse into bed, and do it all again tomorrow. The kitchen was chaos, shouting chefs, clattering pans, the sharp smell of searing meat and butter. Elena put in the oyster order and grabbed a water pitcher to make rounds. Keep moving, stay busy. The night goes faster that way. When she returned to table 12, they were leaning in close, talking quietly. Elena approached from the side, pitcher ready. "Water?" None of them acknowledged her. She began refilling glasses, invisible again. "Has to be public," Irina was saying. Her voice was low but clear. "People need to see it. Otherwise, they'll just assume he's gone into hiding." The younger man nodded. "During the toast, maximum visibility. Luca's people are positioned—" "Excuse me," Volkov said, cutting him off. His eyes flicked to Elena. "We're in the middle of something." My apologies, Elena murmured. She finished the water glass she'd been filling and moved to step away. But she'd heard enough. She didn't know who Luca was, didn't know what toast they meant, but the way they were talking, the careful way they weren't saying certain words. It hit her like cold water. They were planning something tonight. Elena's hand stayed steady as she walked away, but her mind was racing. Maybe she'd misunderstood. Maybe they were talking about business, some corporate thing that sounded worse than it was. But she'd grown up in a neighborhood where people settled scores with violence, not lawyers. She knew the sound of a threat being made. And the way Irina had looked at Volkov while talking about something needing to be public, Elena pushed through the kitchen door and set the pitcher down harder than she meant to. "Easy," Marco said from the grill. "What's got you wound up?" "Nothing. Long night." She grabbed an order ticket and focused on her tables. Table 7 needed dessert menus. Table 4 wanted their check. Table 9 was waiting on entrees. Normal things. Safe things. But her eyes kept drifting back to table 12. Volkov sat relaxed, one arm draped over the back of his chair. He looked calm, untouchable, like a man who owned the room and everyone in it. Irina sat beside him, laughing at something he'd said, her hand on his knee, and all Elena could think was, they're going to kill him. She didn't know how she knew, but she knew. Maybe it was the way the younger man kept checking his watch. Maybe it was how the brunette woman hadn't touched her food, just pushed it around her plate while watching the exits. Maybe it was the 3 men in suits who'd taken up position near the bar, trying to look casual and failing. Elena delivered desserts to table 7, brought fresh drinks to table 9, smiled and nodded and played her part, and kept thinking about table 12. It's not your problem, she told herself. Whatever's happening with these people, it's not your world. Stay out of it. Her father's voice echoed in her head, the way he used to talk when she was younger. Keep your head down, mija. Don't get involved in other people's business. That's how you survive. Good advice. Smart advice. Elena grabbed a napkin and a pen. Her hand was shaking slightly as she wrote. 4 words. That was all. Your fiancé will kill you. She folded the napkin quickly, her heart hammering. This was insane. She didn't know these people, didn't know if what she'd heard was even real. For all she knew, she was about to humiliate herself and lose her job over a misunderstanding. But if she was right, Elena picked up a dessert menu and approached table 12. I wanted to recommend our chocolate soufflé this evening, she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline screaming through her veins. It takes 20 minutes to prepare, but I promise it's worth the wait. She set the menu down in front of Volkov, and beneath it, palm down and casual, she slid the folded napkin. Their eyes met for half a second. She saw him register the napkin, saw something flicker across his face, confusion, maybe, or annoyance. But he didn't say anything, just gave her a curt nod. Elena stepped back. I'll give you a moment to decide. She turned and walked away, willing herself not to run. Her legs felt weak. Her hands were definitely shaking now. You're an idiot, she thought. You just handed a crime lord a note accusing his fiancée of planning to murder him. Either you're wrong and you've just ruined your life, or you're right and you've just ruined your life. She made it to the kitchen and leaned against the wall, trying to breathe normally. You okay? Marco asked. Fine. Just need a second. Through the porthole window in the kitchen door, she could see table 12. Volkov had unfolded the napkin, was reading it. His expression didn't change, nothing dramatic, no shock or anger, just a slight narrowing of the eyes. He looked up, scanned the room. His gaze found her through the window, and then he did something that made Elena's blood run cold. He smiled, not a warm smile, not reassuring. It was the smile of a man who'd just confirmed something he'd suspected, a predator recognizing another predator's scent. Volkov folded the napkin carefully, tucked it into his jacket pocket. Then he leaned over and whispered something to Irina. She laughed, touched his face, kissed him lightly. And Volkov stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice carrying across the dining room. Conversations died. People turned. I apologize for the interruption, but I have a brief announcement. Elena's heart stopped. What is he doing? Many of you know that Irina and I have been planning our wedding, Volkov continued smoothly. What you don't know is that we've decided to move up the date. In fact, he turned to Irina, took her hand. We're going to do it tonight, Right here. Right now. The room erupted in surprised laughter and applause. Irina's face went carefully blank for just a fraction of a second before she recovered, smiling, playing along. But Elena saw the younger man tense, saw the brunette woman's hand move toward her purse. I know it's unorthodox, Volkov said, still holding Irina's hand, still smiling. But when you know, you know. Life is short. Why wait? He raised his champagne glass. To taking chances, he said, to trusting the right people, and to knowing exactly who your enemies are. His eyes cut to Irina for just a moment. The lights went out. Not slowly, not a brownout or a flicker. 1 second the restaurant was blazing with light, the next it was pitch black except for the city glow through the windows. Screams, gasps, the crash of something breaking. Elena pressed herself against the kitchen wall, her night vision struggling to adjust. She heard movement, fast, purposeful. Chairs scraping, something heavy hitting the floor, and then gunfire. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Muzzle flash lit up the dining room in strobing bursts. 1, 2, 3 shots. More screams. People were diving under tables, running for exits. Elena's training kicked in, the training from a childhood in the wrong neighborhood where you learned to move when bullets started flying. She dropped to the floor, making herself small, and crawled toward the kitchen door. Another burst of gunfire, closer this time. Someone was shooting near the kitchen. Move! Her brain screamed. Get out! Get out! Get out! Strong hands grabbed her arm. Elena reacted on instinct, twisting, bringing her elbow up toward whoever had grabbed her. But the person was faster, catching her arm and pulling her close. Stop fighting, a voice said in her ear. Volkov's voice. You want to live, you come with me. Now. She should have hesitated, should have questioned, but the alternative was staying in a restaurant full of people actively trying to kill each other, so she let him pull her to her feet. The lights flickered back on, emergency lighting, dim and sickly yellow. Elena saw bodies on the floor. Not many, but enough. Blood spreading across the white tablecloths. The younger man from table 12 was on his knees, clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. The brunette woman was gone. And Irina stood near the exit, a gun in her hand, her beautiful red dress now splattered with something dark. Adrian, she called across the room. Her voice was steady, controlled. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Volkov didn't answer. He was moving, pulling Elena with him toward the kitchen. One of his men, tall, built like a boxer, bleeding from a cut above his eye, fell in behind them, gun drawn. Back exit, Volkov snapped. They burst through the kitchen door. The staff had scattered, smart people, getting out before the violence reached them. Pots were still boiling on the stove, meat still sizzling on the grill. The normalcy of it was surreal. This way, the boxer said, leading them toward the delivery entrance. They were halfway across the kitchen when the door burst open behind them. 2 men Elena didn't recognize, both armed. They saw Volkov and raised their weapons. The boxer moved first, shoving Elena and Volkov aside as he returned fire. The sound was impossibly loud, echoing off the steel surfaces. One of the attackers went down. The other ducked behind a prep table. Go! The boxer shouted. Volkov grabbed Elena's wrist and ran. They crashed through the delivery door into the alley. Cold night air hit Elena's face like a slap. The alley was narrow, dark, lined with dumpsters and loading pallets. My car's 2 blocks north, Volkov said, already moving. Stay close. Elena's mind was screaming questions. What the hell is happening? Why are you taking me? Where are we going? But her body just ran. Her server's shoes slipped on the wet pavement. She nearly went down, but Volkov's grip on her wrist kept her upright. They reached the end of the alley. Volkov looked both ways, then pulled her left, toward a parking garage. Behind them, she heard shouts. Running footsteps. They're coming, she gasped. I know. They sprinted across the street. A car honked, swerved. Elena didn't look back. They reached the parking garage, and Volkov pulled her inside, past the ticket booth, up the ramp. 2nd level, 3rd level, 4th. Elena's lungs were burning. Her legs felt like they were going to give out. But Volkov didn't slow down, didn't let go of her wrist, just kept pulling her forward. On the 5th level, he stopped at a black SUV, pulled out keys. The locks clicked. Get in. Elena hesitated for exactly half a second. Then she heard the footsteps echoing up the garage ramp and dove into the passenger seat. Volkov was behind the wheel instantly, engine roaring to life. He threw the SUV into reverse, tires squealing. Two men appeared at the top of the ramp, guns raised. Volkov floored it. The SUV shot backward, engine screaming. The men had to dive aside to avoid being hit. One of them got off a shot. The bullet spiderwebbed the rear windshield but didn't penetrate. Volkov spun the wheel, whipping the SUV around in a tight arc. Then he shifted into drive and accelerated toward the exit ramp. They spiraled down through the garage, taking corners too fast, the SUV's suspension protesting. Elena grabbed the oh-shit handle and held on, her other hand braced against the dashboard. They burst out of the garage onto street level. Volkov cut across 2 lanes of traffic, ignored a red light, and gunned it down the street. Behind them, headlights appeared, following. "They're not giving up," Elena said. Her voice sounded distant in her own ears, like someone else was speaking. "They won't," Volkov said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Like he did this every day. Not after tonight. He took a hard right, accelerated down a side street, then made another quick turn. The headlights fell back slightly, but didn't disappear. Elena's hands were shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by the cold reality of what had just happened. She'd witnessed, what? An assassination attempt? A coup? And now she was in a car with a man she knew was dangerous, running from people who wanted them both dead. "Why did you bring me?" she asked. Volkov didn't take his eyes off the road. "You think they didn't see you pass me that note?" The bottom dropped out of Elena's stomach. "Irina's smart," Volkov continued. "She'll have watched me read it, seen my reaction, and she knows I don't trust easily, which means anyone I listen to is either useful or dangerous to her plans." He glanced at Elena. "Congratulations, you're now a witness, a loose end. They'll come for you." I don't know anything. Doesn't matter what you know. Matters what they think you know." He took another turn, harder this time. The pursuing headlights disappeared, but Volkov didn't slow down. "So what happens now?" Elena asked. Now you stay alive. And you help me figure out exactly how far this betrayal goes. I'm a waitress. You saved my life." Volkov cut her off. His voice was flat. "That means you're involved. Whether you like it or not, you're in this now." He made one more turn, then pulled into an underground parking structure. Drove to the lowest level where the lighting was bad and the cameras didn't reach. Parked between 2 concrete pillars. Volkov killed the engine. For a moment they just sat there in the sudden silence. Elena's heart was still racing. She looked down at her hands. They were covered in dust from the kitchen floor. There was a rip in her black shirt. She couldn't remember when that had happened. "I need you to think," Volkov said. He turned in his seat to face her. "When you heard them talking, what exactly did they say?" Elena closed her eyes, forcing herself to focus. The woman, Irina, said something had to be public. That people needed to see it. The man with her, the younger one. "My brother," Volkov said quietly. "Mikhail." That explained the resemblance. And the betrayal. He said something about a toast, maximum visibility, and someone named Luca having people positioned. Volkov's jaw tightened. "Luca Marchetti, runs the north side. We've had a truce for 3 years." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Guess that's over." Elena opened her eyes. "So what was the plan? Kill you at the restaurant? Make it look like what?" "Like a power struggle. Gang violence. Mikhail steps in to stabilize things, backed by Luca's organization. Irina plays the grieving widow, cashes in on the sympathy, and they carve up my territory between them." He said it so calmly, like he was describing someone else's life falling apart. "You don't seem surprised," Elena said. "I'm not." Volkov leaned back in his seat. "I've suspected Mikhail for months. He's been making moves, building alliances I didn't approve. I thought I had time to deal with it quietly. Guess I was wrong." "And Irina?" Something flickered across his face. Anger, maybe. Or regret. "That one I didn't see coming," he admitted. "I knew the engagement was strategic. She wanted the legitimacy that comes with my name. I wanted the connections her family provided. It was business." He looked at Elena. But I thought she was smarter than to side with Mikhail. He's impulsive, reckless. He'll get them all killed within 6 months. Elena tried to process that. A world where marriage was business, where brothers killed brothers, where a waitress's note could unravel an entire conspiracy. What now? She asked. Now I make some calls, figure out who else was involved. Then he stopped, pulled out his phone, frowned at the screen. No signal. We're underground. No. This isn't interference. Someone's jamming it. He tried again, shook his head. They're cutting me off, isolating me, which means they've got more resources than I thought. He looked at Elena, and she saw something shift in his expression, a calculation. You have a phone? Elena nodded slowly, pulling it from her apron pocket. The screen was cracked, probably from when she'd hit the floor, but it was still working. She unlocked it and handed it over. Volkov dialed quickly. Put it on speaker. 2 rings. Then, hello? The voice was male, older, wary. Victor, Volkov said. It's Adrian. A pause. Jesus Christ, we heard shots. What happened? Irina and Mikhail made their move. Luca's backing them. I need a full security sweep of all our properties. Assume anyone directly under Mikhail is compromised. What do you need? Safe house. The one in Bucktown, under the flower shop. I'm bringing a guest. Another pause. You sure that's smart? If they're monitoring, they won't know about her. She's civilian. Volkov glanced at Elena. For now. Copy that. I'll have it prepped. You need extraction? No, I'll make my own way. Just secure the house and run the sweep. I want names by morning. You got it, boss. Volkov ended the call and handed the phone back. We need to move. If they're smart, they're already tracking credit cards, running facial recognition. We've got maybe an hour before they narrow down where we went. Elena stared at him. You want me to go to a safe house? With you, while people with guns are looking for us. Unless you have a better plan. She didn't. Her apartment was probably compromised. If they'd seen her at the restaurant, they'd have her name by now. Her father was safe, at least. He was in a care facility across town, surrounded by staff and security cameras. They wouldn't go after him. Probably. I can't just disappear, Elena said. I have responsibilities. My father will be dead if you lead them to him, Volkov said flatly. Right now, the smartest thing you can do is vanish. Let me clean this up. Then you can go back to your life. And if you can't clean it up? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Elena felt the weight of it settling on her shoulders. This morning, she'd woken up worried about rent and her father's medication. Now she was sitting in a car with a crime lord running from assassins with no idea if she'd ever get her normal life back. I didn't ask for this, she said quietly. No, Volkov agreed, but you wrote the note anyway, so here we are. He started the engine again. The safe house is 30 minutes. Stay low. Don't make any calls. And whatever you do, he looked at her, his eyes hard. Don't trust anyone. Not until this is over. They pulled out of the parking structure into the Chicago night. Elena watched the city slide past the window, familiar streets suddenly foreign, every shadow a potential threat. She thought about the note she'd written, 4 words that had seemed so simple, so necessary. She'd thought she was saving a life. Now she wondered if she'd just destroyed her own. The safe house was exactly what it sounded like. A second-floor apartment above a flower shop, accessed through a back stairwell that reeked of garbage and old cigarettes. Volkov went up first, gun drawn, checking every corner before motioning Elena inside. The apartment was sparse, hardwood floors, minimal furniture, blackout curtains over the windows. It looked like a place designed to be forgotten quickly. Bathroom's there, Volkov said, gesturing. Kitchen's stocked with basics. Don't go near the windows. Elena stood in the middle of the room, still wearing her ripped work shirt and apron, feeling completely out of place. How long are we staying here? As long as it takes. He was already on his phone. Victor must have brought him a new one. Typing rapidly. There's clothes in the bedroom closet, probably not your size, but they'll work. Whose are they? Does it matter? Fair point. Elena went to the bedroom. The closet held generic items, jeans, t-shirts, a couple of hoodies. She grabbed the smallest options and changed quickly, leaving her work clothes in a pile on the floor. When she came back out, Volkov was standing at the window, peering through a crack in the curtain. He'd taken off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. For the first time, she noticed blood on his shirt. Not a lot, but enough. "You're hurt," she said. He glanced down. "Grazed me when the lights went out. It's nothing. You should clean it, unless you want it to get infected." He looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. Then he nodded toward the bathroom. "First aid kit's under the sink." Elena found it. A serious kit, not the Band-Aid and Neosporin kind. Gauze, antiseptic, sutures, even trauma shears. She brought it back to the living room. "Sit," she said. Volkov raised an eyebrow but complied, lowering himself onto the couch. Elena knelt beside him, opened the kit. "Shirt," she said. He unbuttoned it slowly, watching her face, testing her maybe to see if she'd flinch. She didn't. She'd seen worse. She'd patched up her father more than once when he'd come home bleeding from construction accidents or bar fights. Blood didn't scare her. The wound was on his left side, just above his ribs, a furrow where a bullet had traced across skin without penetrating. It had stopped bleeding, but it needed to be cleaned. Elena soaked gauze in antiseptic. "This is going to sting. I'll survive." She pressed the gauze to the wound. Volkov's jaw tightened, but he didn't make a sound. "You're used to this," Elena said. "Which part? Getting shot at, or having strangers play nurse?" "Both, probably." A ghost of a smile. "You're not wrong." She worked quietly, cleaning the wound, applying antibiotic ointment, covering it with a clean bandage. Her hands were steady, even though the rest of her felt like it was vibrating at a frequency only she could perceive. "Why did you do it?" Volkov asked suddenly. Elena didn't look up. "Do what?" "The note. You didn't know me. You could have just walked away." She secured the bandage with medical tape. "I heard them planning to kill you." "So?" "People try to kill me twice a week. Why did you care?" Elena sat back on her heels, meeting his eyes. "Because murder's wrong. I don't care who you are or what you've done. Nobody deserves to be blindsided like that." "Most people would say I deserve exactly that." "Then most people are idiots." He laughed. A real laugh this time, surprised and genuine. "You know what I do, right? What kind of man I am. I know you're not a good person," Elena said bluntly. "I know you've probably hurt people, killed people maybe. I'm not naive." She stood up, putting the first aid kit back together. "But that doesn't mean I'm going to stand by and watch someone murder you." Interesting moral code. It's gotten me this far. Volkov watched her for a long moment. Then he stood, buttoning his shirt carefully around the bandage. "You should try to sleep," he said. "Tomorrow's going to be complicated." "What happens tomorrow?" "I start taking back what's mine. And you?" He paused. "You stay alive. That's your job." Elena wanted to argue, wanted to demand more information, more agency, more control over this situation she'd been thrown into. But she was exhausted, bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion that made her limbs feel heavy and her thoughts slow. "Where do I sleep?" she asked. "Bedroom. I'll take the couch." She started to protest. He was injured. He should take the bed. But the look on his face stopped her. This wasn't generosity. This was positioning. He was between her and the door. Strategic. Elena went to the bedroom and closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out her phone. 3 missed calls from the restaurant manager. 2 texts from Marco asking if she was okay. Nothing from anyone else, because she didn't have anyone else. Just her father, and he wouldn't even know she was missing until she failed to show up for visiting hours tomorrow. She thought about calling the police. But what would she say? "I witnessed a crime lord's fiancée trying to murder him, and now he's keeping me in a safe house?" They'd laugh her out of the station. Or worse, they'd put her name in a report that could get leaked. No. Volkov was right. The safest place for her right now was somewhere no one would think to look. Even if that somewhere was with a dangerous man she barely knew. Elena lay down on top of the covers, still dressed. Sleep felt impossible, but her body had other ideas. The adrenaline was gone, leaving only exhaustion in its wake. Her last thought before unconsciousness took her was about the note. 4 words. "Your fiancé will kill you." Such a simple warning, such devastating consequences. And somewhere in Chicago, Irina and Mikhail were regrouping, planning their next move, coming for both of them. Elena closed her eyes and fell into darkness. Elena woke to the sound of voices. For a disorienting moment, she didn't remember where she was. The bed was wrong. The light was wrong. Everything smelled like dust and old wood instead of her usual lavender detergent. Then it came rushing back, the restaurant, the gunfire, the midnight drive through Chicago with a man who probably had a body count higher than her age. She sat up slowly, her muscles protesting. Sleeping in jeans had been a mistake. Her whole body felt stiff and wrong. The voices were coming from the other room, male, low, speaking in clipped sentences. Elena checked her phone, 6:43 in the morning. She'd been asleep for maybe 5 hours. She got up, moved to the door, pressed her ear against it. Confirmed. Mikhail's moved into the penthouse, acting like he already owns it. That was Victor's voice, the man from the phone call. He's got 8 guys with him, all Marchetti's people. What about the others? Volkov's voice. Calm. Controlled. How many stayed loyal? About 60%. The rest are either with Mikhail or sitting on the fence, waiting to see who comes out on top. Smart. Can't blame them for hedging their bets. Boss, we need to move fast. Every hour we wait, Mikhail consolidates more power. He's already reached out to the South Side crews, offering them territory if they back his play. A pause. Then Volkov said, "Let him. I want to see exactly who shows their cards. The ones who jumped to Mikhail's side now, they were never loyal to begin with." And the girl? Elena's breath caught. What about her? Volkov asked. You sure bringing her here was smart? She's a liability. Civilian witness, no training, no loyalty to the organization. If Mikhail's people find out she's with you, they won't. But if they do, then I'll handle it. Volkov's tone had gone cold. She saved my life. That buys her protection until this is over. And after? No answer to that. Elena stepped back from the door. Her hands were shaking slightly. Liability. That's what she was to them. A complication. Something to be managed. She looked around the bedroom. One window, painted shut. The door she'd just been listening through. No other exits. She was trapped here, dependent on a man who saw her as a problem to solve. The smart thing would be to run. Find a way out, get to her father, disappear somewhere Volkov and his enemies would never find her. But Victor was right about one thing. She had no training, no resources, no way to vanish properly. She'd last maybe 12 hours before someone found her. The door opened. Elena jumped, nearly fell backward. Volkov stood in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, stubble darkening his jaw, but alert. Always alert. You were listening, he said. Not a question. Your friend thinks I'm a liability. Victor thinks everyone's a liability. It's what makes him good at his job. He held out one of the cups. You drink coffee? Elena took it automatically. It was black, strong, still too hot to drink. What happens after? After what? After this is over. After you've dealt with your brother and Irina. What happens to me? Volkov leaned against the doorframe. You go back to your life. I make sure you're protected. Set up a new identity if you need it. Relocate you somewhere safe. You'll be taken care of. I don't want to be taken care of. I want my life back. Your old life ended the moment you wrote that note. His voice wasn't cruel, just factual. The world you lived in yesterday? That's gone. The question now is what world you're going to live in tomorrow. Elena felt something hot and sharp rise in her chest. You don't get to decide that. I don't, but reality does. And the reality is that you're marked. Irina saw you. Mikhail saw you. They know you warned me, which means they can't afford to leave you alive as a witness. That's not my decision. That's just how this works. He was right. Elena hated that he was right. She took a sip of coffee to have something to do with her hands. It burned her tongue, but at least it gave her a second to think. So what do I do? She asked, finally. Right now, you stay here. Stay safe. Victor's bringing supplies later, food, clothes, whatever you need. I have to go out, handle some business. Business meaning what? Killing people? Business meaning information gathering. I need to know exactly who's with Mikhail, who's on the fence, and who's still loyal. Can't fight a war without knowing your enemy's full strength. And you're leaving me here. Alone. You'll have security outside, 2 of my best people. They won't let anyone get to you. Elena set down the coffee cup harder than she meant to. I don't need babysitters. Yes, you do, because the alternative is you come with me, and I can't guarantee your safety if bullets start flying again. He pushed off the doorframe. I'm trying to keep you alive, Elena. Work with me here. She wanted to argue, wanted to demand he take her with him, or let her go, or give her some kind of control over this situation that had swallowed her whole. But he was already walking away, back to the living room where Victor was waiting. Elena followed him out. Victor was exactly what she'd expected. Late 50s, built like someone who'd spent his youth doing violence and his middle age managing it. He had cold eyes and the kind of stillness that came from being very, very dangerous. He looked at her like she was a problem he couldn't solve. Miss Cross, he said, his voice neutral. Just, Elena is fine. Elena? He didn't offer his hand. You understand the situation you're in? People want to kill me because I overheard a murder plot. Yeah, I got the general idea. A ghost of something, approval maybe, flickered across Victor's face. Good. Makes things simpler if you're not in denial. He turned to Volkov. I've got 2 cars waiting downstairs. Different routes, different safe houses set up in case we need to move again. Your meeting with Alexander is at 9. Who's Alexander? Elena asked. Volkov glanced at her. Someone who might have answers about how deep this betrayal goes. Old friend of my father's. If anyone knows who else is involved, it's him. Can you trust him? I don't trust anyone right now, but Alexander's got no reason to side with Mikhail. He hated my brother even before this. Victor checked his watch. We need to move. Longer you stay in one place, easier it is for them to find you. Volkov grabbed a jacket from the back of the couch, checked the gun holstered at his hip. Then he looked at Elena. Stay here. Stay quiet. Don't answer the door for anyone except Victor or the guards I'm leaving. Understand? I'm not an idiot. Didn't say you were. But scared people make stupid decisions. Don't be stupid. He left before she could respond. Victor lingered for a moment, his eyes assessing her. He's trying to protect you, Victor said quietly. Doesn't seem like it, but he is. Why? Elena asked. He doesn't know me. I'm nobody to him. You saved his life. In Adrian's world, that means something. Loyalty isn't common in our business. When he finds it, he values it. I'm not loyal to him. I just didn't want to watch someone die. Victor smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. That's what loyalty looks like when you're not expecting it, the most dangerous kind. He followed Volkov out, leaving Elena alone in the safe house. She stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by other people's furniture and other people's secrets, and tried to figure out what the hell she was supposed to do now. The hours crawled. Elena tried to sleep more but couldn't. Tried to watch TV, but everything felt too loud, too bright, too normal compared to the chaos her life had become. She paced the apartment, checked her phone obsessively, even though there was nothing to check. At 10, one of the guards knocked and brought her breakfast. Bagels, cream cheese, coffee that was somehow even stronger than what Volkov had given her earlier. The guard was young, maybe mid-20s, with the kind of build that came from serious gym time. Need anything else, miss? He asked. Information would be nice. What's happening out there? Can't tell you that. Boss's orders. Of course they are. Elena took the food. What's your name? The guard hesitated. Tommy. Thanks, Tommy, for the food. He nodded and left, locking the door behind him. Elena ate mechanically, tasting nothing. Her mind kept spinning through everything that had happened, looking for exits, for solutions, for some way out of this that didn't end with her dead or in witness protection for the rest of her life. She thought about her father. He'd be worried by now. She always visited on Saturday mornings, and she'd missed it. The facility would have tried calling her, but she'd had her phone on silent since last night. She checked it now. 7 missed calls from the care home. 3 voicemails. Elena played the first one. Miss Cross, this is Angela from Riverside Care. Your father's asking for you. Could you give us a call when you get this? Thanks. The second, Elena, it's Angela again. Your father's getting agitated. We really need you to call us back. The third, from a different voice. Miss Cross, this is Dr. Patel. Your father's having some confusion about where you are. It's not uncommon with his condition, but it would help if you could come by or at least call. Please contact us as soon as possible. Elena's chest tightened. Her father had early-stage dementia. Some days he was sharp as ever. Other days, he barely recognized her. Change upset him. Routine was everything. And she'd just blown up his routine. She tried calling the facility. It rang twice, then went to a busy signal. She tried again. Same thing. Weird. Elena pulled up the facility's website on her phone, looking for an alternate number. Found one for emergencies. Dialed it. It rang 6 times. Then, Riverside Care, emergency line. Hi, this is Elena Cross. My father's a resident there. I got some messages. Oh, Miss Cross. Yes, we've been trying to reach you. Your father's fine now, but he had a difficult morning. Are you able to come by? Elena stopped. What was she supposed to say? I'm hiding from murderers? I'm dealing with a family emergency. Can you put him on the phone? Hold on. Muzak. Elena waited, her leg bouncing nervously. Then her father's voice. Elena? That you? Yeah, Dad, it's me. Where are you? They said you didn't come this morning. You always come Saturday mornings. I know, I'm sorry. Something came up. Work stuff. Work? He sounded confused. You got Saturdays off, you told me. Usually, yeah. But there was an emergency. I'll come see you soon, okay? Maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. You come Saturdays. Elena closed her eyes. The dementia made him rigid, unable to adapt to changes. I know, Dad, but just this once, it'll be Sunday instead. That okay? A long pause. Then, You in trouble, mija? Her throat tightened. Even through the confusion, he could still read her. No, Dad, I'm fine. Just busy. You sure? You sound scared. I'm not scared, just tired. Another pause. You be careful, okay? Chicago's dangerous. I keep telling you that. I know. I will. I love you. Love you too, baby. Come see me soon. I will. I promise. She hung up before her voice could crack. Tommy knocked again an hour later. Boss is on his way back. Wanted you to know. How'd it go? Not my place to say, miss. Of course it wasn't. Volkov returned just after 2. He looked worse than when he'd left. There was blood on his knuckles, fresh bruising along his jaw. But his eyes were sharp, focused. Victor came in behind him, carrying a laptop. Well? Elena asked. Volkov went to the sink, started washing the blood off his hands. Alexander confirmed what I suspected. Mikhail's been planning this for at least 6 months. Building alliances, moving money around, setting up supply lines. Irina came in later, about 2 months ago. They needed her family's connections in Europe to make it work. So what's the plan? The plan is I dismantle everything they've built, one piece at a time. He dried his hands on a towel. Victor's got a list of everyone who sided with Mikhail. We start with the key players, cut off their resources, turn their allies against them, make them vulnerable. That sounds like it'll take weeks. It will, which is why you're staying here where it's safe. For weeks? Volkov turned to look at her. However long it takes. I can't just hide here for weeks. I have a job, responsibilities. Your father's in a secure facility with round-the-clock care. He's fine. He's not fine. He's scared and confused, and I promised I'd visit him tomorrow. Then you'll break that promise, because going anywhere near him right now puts a target on his back. Elena felt anger flare hot in her chest. You don't get to decide that. Actually, I do. You're under my protection now, which means you follow my rules. I didn't ask for your protection. You asked for it when you wrote that note. Volkov's voice was flat, unyielding. You made yourself part of this. Now you have to live with the consequences. That's bullshit, and you know it. Victor cleared his throat. Boss, maybe... No. Volkov cut him off. She needs to understand. This isn't temporary. This isn't something we can fix in a couple of days and then she goes back to her life like nothing happened. Mikhail and Irina want her dead. That doesn't change just because I win. She's a loose end, a witness. They'll come for her eventually. Elena stared at him. So what are you saying? That I'm stuck in this life forever? I'm saying you need to think very carefully about what comes next. Because your old life is over. You can accept that and figure out how to survive in this new one, or you can keep fighting it and get yourself killed. The words hit like a physical blow. Elena had known, on some level, that everything had changed, but hearing it said out loud, Hearing that the life she'd built, however small and difficult, was just gone. "I need air," she said. "You can't leave." "Then open a window. Because if I stay in this room with you right now, I'm going to say something we'll both regret." Volkov and Victor exchanged a look. Then Victor nodded toward the bedroom. "Window in there opens, just don't stick your head out." Elena walked into the bedroom and slammed the door. Not mature, but it made her feel slightly better. She opened the window, letting cold air wash over her face. The alley below was empty except for dumpsters and a stray cat picking through trash. Normal city sounds drifted up. Traffic, sirens, someone's radio playing hip-hop. The world was still turning. People were still living their lives. And she was stuck here, a prisoner in everything but name. Elena pulled out her phone. She had an email from the restaurant. Termination notice. They'd assumed she'd walked out mid-shift. No explanation, no severance. Just gone. Another email from her landlord. Rent was due in 5 days. A text from Marco. "Heard you quit? WTF happened? Call me." She couldn't call him. Couldn't explain. Couldn't do anything except sit here and wait while Volkov decided her future for her. The anger burned itself out slowly, leaving only exhaustion. Elena closed the window and lay down on the bed. Stared at the ceiling. Tried not to think about everything she'd lost in less than 24 hours. She must have dozed off, because the next thing she knew, someone was knocking on the door. "Yeah?" she called out. Volkov opened the door. He was alone, Victor apparently gone. He looked tired, maybe even guilty, though it was hard to tell. "Victor brought food," he said. "You should eat." "Not hungry." "Eat anyway. You need your strength." "For what? Sitting around being a liability?" Volkov sighed, came into the room, sat down in the chair by the window. "I know you're angry. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you seem pretty comfortable ruining people's lives." "That's fair." He was quiet for a moment. "I'm not good at this. The protecting people part. Usually I'm the threat, not the shield." "So why bother? Why not just cut me loose? Let me take my chances." "Because you saved my life, and because—" He stopped, started again. "My father had a saying, the measure of a man is what he does when no one's watching. You didn't write that note because someone was going to reward you. You did it because it was right. That's rare, especially in my world. I'm not some noble hero. I just didn't want to watch someone die. That's exactly what makes you different." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Everyone in my organization, they're loyal because I pay them, because I protect them, because they're scared of what happens if they're not. But you had nothing to gain and everything to lose, and you helped anyway." Elena sat up, looking at him properly. "Where's this going?" "I'm saying I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Not because I owe you, though I do, but because if I let someone like you die because you tried to do the right thing, then I'm exactly the monster everyone thinks I am." It was the most human thing she'd heard him say. The mask had slipped just for a moment, and underneath was someone who maybe hated what he'd become. "What was your father like?" Elena asked. Volkov's jaw tightened. Complicated, brilliant, ruthless when he needed to be. But he had rules, lines he wouldn't cross. Mikhail never understood that. He thought our father was weak for having principles. "And you?" "I think principles are what separate us from animals. Doesn't mean I always live up to them, but I try." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elena said, "I can't hide here forever." "I know." "So what do we do?" "We end this fast. I've got people working on tracking down Mikhail's movements. Once I know where he's vulnerable, I'll move, hit him hard enough that he can't recover. Then it's over." "And Irina?" "She's the harder target. She's smart, careful, but everyone makes mistakes. I'll find hers." Elena wanted to believe him, wanted to think this would be over soon, that she could somehow reclaim some piece of her old life. But she'd seen the way he'd looked when he talked about his brother. This wasn't going to end quickly. This was going to be war. "Come eat," Volkov said, standing. "Then we'll figure out next steps." Elena followed him out to the living room. Victor had left Chinese takeout, enough food for 6 people. Elena grabbed a container of lo mein and sat on the couch. Volkov ate standing up, his eyes on his phone, constantly checking messages. "How bad is it?" Elena asked. "Mikhail took 2 of my shipments this morning, intercepted them before they reached distribution. That's about $2 million in product gone." "Can't you just—" I don't know. Get more? It's not about the product. It's about the message. He's showing my suppliers that I can't protect their investments. If they think I'm weak, they'll start working with him instead. So what do? I show them I'm not weak. He set down his phone. Tomorrow night, Mikhail's hosting a meeting. All the family heads, the ones who haven't chosen a side yet. He's going to make his pitch, offer them territory, better terms, whatever they want. Try to lock them in. And you're going to what? Crash the party? Something like that. A cold smile. Mikhail always was better at making promises than keeping them. I just need to remind everyone of that. That sounds dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, but sitting back and letting him build his power base is more dangerous. Elena picked at her low mane. How did it get like this? You and your brother? Volkov was quiet for a long time. Then, Mikhail always felt like he was in my shadow. I'm older, so I inherited the leadership. He inherited the resentment. Our father tried to give him responsibilities, make him feel valued, but it was never enough. He wanted what I had. Your life? My position? My respect? The family name without the family responsibility. He laughed bitterly. He doesn't understand what it costs. He just sees the power. Do you like it? The power? Honestly, most days I hate it. It's exhausting. Everyone wants something. Everyone's testing you, looking for weakness. You can't trust anyone completely. Can't relax. Can't be human. Then why do it? Because someone has to. And if I step back, someone worse takes over. At least I have rules. At least I try to minimize the damage. He looked at her. I know how that sounds, like I'm justifying being a criminal. You are a criminal. Yeah, I am. But I'm not Mikhail. I don't hurt people for fun. I don't prey on the weak. And I sure as hell don't betray family. The conviction in his voice was absolute. Elena set down her food. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. If you win, when you win, what happens to Mikhail? Volkov's expression went carefully blank. That's not a conversation you want to be part of. I'm already part of it, so tell me, what happens? He'll be dealt with. Meaning you'll kill him. Meaning he made his choice. Now he lives with the consequences. He's your brother. He stopped being my brother when he tried to kill me. Volkov's voice was cold now, all the earlier vulnerability gone. You think I want this? You think I wanted to choose between family and survival? No, but you're going to do it anyway. Yes. Because if I don't, he'll keep coming. He'll kill me, kill you, kill anyone who stands in his way. That's who he is. That's who he's always been. He turned away. I tried to save him. Our father tried. But you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Elena felt something complicated twist in her chest. She should have been horrified. Should have been disgusted by how casually he talked about killing his own brother. But all she felt was tired. I need to sleep, she said. Yeah, you do that. Volkov picked up his phone again, already moving on. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Elena went back to the bedroom and closed the door. She lay down fully clothed, too exhausted to bother changing. Tomorrow, Volkov would crash Mikhail's meeting, would start dismantling his brother's coup, would drag them all deeper into violence. And she'd be here, waiting, useless. She hated it, hated feeling helpless, hated that her survival depended on a man who killed people for a living. But more than that, she hated that a small, dark part of her understood him, understood the impossible choices that came with survival, understood that sometimes there was no good option, only bad and worse. Elena closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Outside, the city continued its dangerous dance. And somewhere out there, Mikhail and Irina were planning their next move. The war had just begun. The nightmare woke Elena at 4 a.m, fragmented images of gunfire and blood, Irina's cold smile, the sound of her father calling her name from somewhere she couldn't reach. She sat up gasping, her shirt soaked through with sweat. The apartment was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic. Elena got up, splashed cold water on her face in the bathroom, and wandered into the living room. Volkov was awake, sitting at the table with his laptop open and papers spread everywhere. He glanced up when she entered. Can't sleep? He asked. Bad dreams. Elena sat down across from him. You? Don't sleep much these days. Too much to do. He gestured at the papers. Trying to map out everyone's positions, Who's loyal? Who's not? Who's waiting to see which way the wind blows? Elena leaned forward, looking at what appeared to be an organizational chart with names and photos connected by lines. Red lines, black lines, dotted lines. What do the colors mean? Red is confirmed traitor, black is loyal, dotted is uncertain. He tapped a photo, a heavy-set man with a scar across his cheek. This one's interesting. Paolo Resnick. He's been with the family for 20 years. Our father saved his life back in the 90s, but word is Mikhail offered him the entire north side if he switches. Will he? Probably. Loyalty only goes so far when someone's offering you a kingdom. Volkov rubbed his eyes. That's the problem with this life. Everyone's loyalty has a price. You just have to figure out what it is. Not everyone. He looked at her. You saying you're the exception? I'm saying some people can't be bought. Some people do things because they're right, not because there's a reward. Those people usually end up dead. Or they end up saving someone's life with a napkin note. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Fair point. Elena studied the chart more carefully. There were dozens of names, dozens of faces. Men and women she'd never heard of, all part of a world she'd stumbled into by accident. How do you keep track of all of this? She asked. Practice. You grow up in this life. You learn to read people fast. Who's ambitious? Who's desperate? Who's stupid enough to think they can play both sides? He pulled up another document on his laptop. This is the guest list for tomorrow's meeting. Mikhail invited 43 people. I've got solid intel on maybe 30 of them. What about the other 13? Wildcards. Could go either way. Those are the ones I need to win over. Elena frowned at the screen. How are you even getting into this meeting? Won't they have security? Of course they will. Heavy security, which is why I'm not walking through the front door. Then how? The building Mikhail chose is the old Riverside Hotel. Been abandoned for 5 years, but it's got good bones. More importantly, it's got service tunnels that connect to the building next door. Victor's people are mapping them now. So you're going to sneak in through tunnels, crash a meeting full of armed criminals, and somehow convince them to side with you instead of your brother? More or less. That's insane. It's necessary. Volkov closed the laptop. Mikhail's pitch is going to be simple. I'm weak, he's strong, back him, and prosper. I need to prove he's wrong. Show them I'm still in control, still dangerous, still the better bet. By doing what exactly? Volkov was quiet for a moment, then he said, by showing them what happens when you underestimate me. The way he said it sent a chill down Elena's spine. You're going to kill people. I'm going to send a message. Whether that involves killing depends on how smart they are. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to tell him there had to be another way, a better way, something that didn't involve more violence. But she was starting to understand his world. In this life, violence wasn't the exception. It was the language everyone spoke. And the only way to be heard was to speak it fluently. What do you need me to do? She asked. Volkov looked surprised. Nothing. You stay here where it's safe. That's not going to work. Elena. No, listen. I've been thinking about this. Mikhail knows you're alive. He knows I warned you. Which means he's probably watching for me, right? Trying to figure out where you're hiding? That's why you're staying hidden. Or, Elena said slowly, working through the idea as she spoke, that's why I should be visible. Make him think you've cut me loose. Make him think I'm vulnerable. Absolutely not. Hear me out. If Mikhail thinks I'm alone, unprotected, he'll send people after me. And when he does, you'll know where they are, what they're planning. You can use me as bait. No. Volkov's voice was flat, final. That's not happening. Why not? You said yourself I'm a liability. At least this way I'm a useful liability. You're also untrained, unarmed, and have no idea how to handle yourself in a firefight. I handled myself fine at the restaurant. You got lucky at the restaurant. Luck runs out. Elena leaned back, frustrated. So what am I supposed to do? Just sit here being useless while you fight this war alone? Yes. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Stay alive. Don't make this harder than it already is. It's my life that got destroyed. I should get a say in how we fix it. There is no fixing it. There's only survival. And you survive by listening to me. They stared at each other across the table. Elena could see the determination in his eyes. He genuinely thought he was protecting her. But protection felt a lot like prison when you had no control over your own fate. Fine, she said, standing up. I'll stay here like a good little victim, but when this goes sideways, and it will go sideways, don't say I didn't offer to help. She went back to the bedroom and closed the door, harder than necessary. The rest of the morning passed slowly. Victor arrived around 8 with breakfast and a stack of files for Volkov. Elena heard them talking in low voices but didn't go out. She was still angry, still feeling helpless, still hating every second of this. Around 10, her phone rang. Unknown number. Elena almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Elena Cross. A woman's voice. Professional? Cool. Who is this? Someone who can help you. I know what you're caught up in. I know Adrian Volkov is using you, and I know you want out. Elena's blood ran cold. How did you get this number? That's not important. What's important is that you have a choice. You can stay with Volkov and hope he protects you, or you can take control of your own situation. I'm hanging up. Wait, just listen. Meet me. 1 hour. There's a coffee shop on Clark and Diversey. Murphy's. Come alone. I'll explain everything. Why would I trust you? Because right now you don't trust anyone. And that's smart. But sitting in that safe house waiting for men to decide your future? That's not survival. That's just a different kind of death. The line went dead. Elena stared at her phone. Her hands were shaking. It could be a trap. Probably was a trap. Irina or Mikhail trying to lure her out so they could eliminate the witness. But the woman was right about one thing. Sitting here doing nothing was its own kind of death. And if there was even a chance of taking back some control, shouldn't she try? Elena looked at the bedroom door. She could hear Volkov and Victor still talking in the other room. If she told them about the call, they'd lock this place down completely. She'd never leave. But if she went alone, if she was careful, maybe she could figure out who this woman was, what she wanted, whether she represented a threat or an opportunity. It was stupid, reckless, exactly the kind of thing Volkov had warned her not to do. Elena grabbed her jacket. The window in the bedroom opened onto a fire escape. It was rusty, probably hadn't been used in years, but it led down to the alley. Elena tested it carefully, listening for sounds of movement in the apartment. Nothing. They were still focused on their planning. She climbed out onto the fire escape, eased the window closed behind her, and started down. The metal creaked under her weight, each step sounding impossibly loud. But no one came to the window, no alarms went off. She reached the alley, dropped the last few feet, and started walking. It felt surreal to be out in the city again. Normal people going about their normal lives, buying coffee, walking dogs, arguing about parking spots. Elena had been one of them just 2 days ago. Now she felt like a ghost moving through their world, separate, apart. Murphy's coffee was a 20-minute walk. Elena kept checking over her shoulder, expecting to see Victor or Tommy or one of Volkov's people following her. But if they were there, they were better at surveillance than she was at spotting it. The coffee shop was small, crowded, smelling of espresso and fresh pastries. Elena scanned the room, looking for anyone who seemed out of place. A woman in the back corner raised her hand slightly. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back in a bun. Expensive suit. She didn't look like a criminal. She looked like a lawyer or a banker. Elena wove through the tables and sat down across from her. Elena, the woman said, thank you for coming. Who are you? My name's Rachel Torres. I'm an FBI agent. Elena felt the bottom drop out of her stomach. What? Torres pulled out a badge, showed it briefly, then put it away. I've been investigating the Volkov organization for 3 years, and right now you're the best lead we've had in months. I don't know anything. You know more than you think. You witnessed an attempted murder. You've been inside Volkov's safe house. You know about the power struggle between Adrian and Mikhail. That's valuable information. Elena's mind was racing. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm offering you a way out. Work with us. Tell us what you know. Help us build a case against both brothers. In exchange, we put you in witness protection. New name, new city, new life. You'd be safe. It sounded too good to be true, which meant it probably was. And my father? Elena asked. We'd relocate him too. Set him up in a new facility, top-notch care. You'd both be protected. Elena wanted to believe it, wanted to think there was a clean exit from this nightmare. But something felt wrong. If you've been investigating Volkov for 3 years, why haven't you arrested him? Because he's careful. He insulates himself from direct criminal activity. Everything goes through intermediaries. We need someone on the inside to connect the dots. I'm not on the inside. I'm a waitress he's protecting. You're a witness he can't afford to lose. That makes you leverage. And leverage is what we need. Torres leaned forward, her expression softening slightly. I know this is scary. I know you didn't ask for any of this. But you have a chance here to do the right thing. Help us take down a criminal organization, save lives, and get your own life back in the process. Elena thought about Volkov, about the way he'd looked when he talked about his brother, about the bodies in the restaurant, about the war that was coming. I need time to think, she said. We don't have time. Mikhail's meeting is tonight. After that, things are going to escalate fast. People are going to die. Maybe you, if you're not careful. I said I need time. Torres pulled out a card, slid it across the table. My number. Call me when you're ready, but don't wait too long. This offer won't be on the table forever. Elena took the card, shoved it in her pocket, and stood up. One more thing, Torres said. Adrian Volkov is not your friend. He's not a hero. He's a killer who's good at making people think he's different than he actually is. Don't confuse protection with care. He's using you. And when you're no longer useful, he'll discard you like everyone else. Elena walked out without responding. The walk back to the safe house felt longer. Elena's mind was spinning through everything Torres had said. The offer was tempting. Witness protection, a fresh start, safety. But it also meant betraying Volkov. Betraying the man who'd saved her life, who'd kept her safe when he could have just cut her loose. Torres was right about one thing, though. Volkov was a killer. A criminal. Someone who'd probably done terrible things long before Elena had ever heard his name. But he'd also been honest with her. Hadn't lied about who he was or what his world looked like. And he'd protected her when he had no reason to. That had to count for something. Elena was 2 blocks from the safe house when she noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, driving too slowly. Following her. Her heart rate spiked. She picked up her pace, turned down a side street. The car turned too. Not subtle, not even trying to hide. Elena broke into a run. The car accelerated, pulled ahead of her, screeched to a stop. 2 men got out, both armed, both moving with purpose. Miss Cross, one of them called. We just want to talk. Elena reversed direction, sprinted back the way she'd come. Behind her, she heard footsteps. They were following, but not shooting. Not yet. She cut through an alley, jumped over a chain-link fence, kept running. Her lungs burned. Her legs felt weak, but fear kept her moving. She burst out onto a main street, nearly collided with a woman pushing a stroller. Sorry. A hand grabbed her arm. Elena spun, ready to fight, and found herself face to face with Tommy. What the hell are you doing? He snapped. They're following me. Tommy looked past her, spotted the 2 men emerging from the alley. His expression hardened. Get in the car, now. There was an SUV parked at the curb, engine running. Elena dove into the back seat. Tommy got in after her, pulled his gun. Drive, he told the person up front. The SUV peeled out. Through the rear window, Elena saw the 2 men standing in the street watching them go. What the fuck were you thinking? Tommy demanded. You left the safe house? I had to. You had to what? Get yourself killed? Because that's what almost happened. Elena's hands were shaking. I got a call. Someone said they could help me. And you believed them? I didn't know what to believe. Tommy was on his phone. Yeah, we've got her. She's fine. Heading back now. A pause. Yeah, he's going to be pissed. He was right. Volkov was waiting when they got back to the safe house. He didn't yell, didn't raise his voice, just stood there looking at Elena with an expression that made her wish he'd yell instead. What happened? He asked quietly. Elena told him everything. The phone call, Torres, the offer of witness protection, the 2 men who'd followed her. When she finished, Volkov was silent for a long moment. Then he said, Show me the card. Elena pulled it out. Volkov looked at it, then handed it to Victor. Run it, he said. Victor pulled out his laptop, started typing. After a minute, he looked up. Number's real. Registered to an FBI field office. Rachel Torres is legit. Counterterrorism Division. Currently assigned to Organized Crime Task Force. So she's actually FBI, Elena said. She's actually FBI, Volkov agreed, which means everything I told you is now potentially evidence. Everything you've seen, everything you know. The Bureau's going to use you to build a case. She said they'd protect me, my father too. They'll try. Maybe they'll even succeed, but witness protection isn't a guarantee. People get found. Sometimes by criminals, sometimes by coincidence. And when they do, he didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Elena sat down heavily on the couch. I didn't tell her anything. I didn't agree to anything. I know. But now they know you're accessible. They know you're scared. They'll push harder. And eventually they'll give you an ultimatum. Cooperate or face charges for obstruction. Can they do that? They can do whatever they want. Whether it sticks is another question, but the threat alone might be enough to flip you. Elena looked up at him. What do you want me to do? I want you to stay here. Stay safe. Don't answer any more mysterious phone calls. And let me handle Torres. Handle her how? By making it very clear that you're not available as a witness. That any attempt to contact you again will be considered a hostile action. You can't threaten an FBI agent. I can do whatever's necessary to protect my people. I'm not your people. I'm just someone you're stuck with. Volkov crouched down so they were eye level. You stopped being just someone the moment you wrote that note. Whether you like it or not, you're part of this now. Which means I protect you, even from yourself. There was something intense in his gaze, something almost possessive. Elena should have found it unsettling, but instead she felt something else, something complicated. The men who followed me, she said, changing the subject. Were they Mikhail's? Probably, which means they're tracking you. Probably put a tail on Victor or one of my men, followed them back to the safe house. That's on me. I should have been more careful. So what now? Now we move. This location's compromised. Victor's got another place ready. He stood up, started gathering papers from the table. Elena watched him work. Efficient, controlled, every movement purposeful. He'd been doing this his whole life, running, hiding, fighting. It was second nature to him. Can I ask you something? She said. Go ahead. Why do you keep doing this, living this life? You said yourself you hate it most days. Why not just leave? Disappear. Start over somewhere else. Volkov stopped packing. Where would I go? I'm known in every major city in North America. I've got enemies on 3 continents. And even if I could disappear, Mikhail would hunt me. This only ends one way. With him dead. With one of us dead. Maybe both. He zipped up a bag. That's the thing about this life. There's no retirement plan. No growing old peacefully. You either die in power or you die trying to escape it. That's a sad way to live. It's the only way I know. Victor appeared in the doorway. Cars are ready. We should move now before they reposition. Volkov nodded, turned to Elena. Grab whatever you need. We leave in 5 minutes. Elena went to the bedroom, gathered the few belongings she'd accumulated. Her phone, charger, the jacket. Not much. Her entire life compressed into items that fit in her pockets. When she came back out, Volkov was armed. Not just the pistol at his hip, but a second gun in a shoulder holster, combat ready. It's going to be like this from now on, isn't it? Elena asked. Running, hiding, always looking over our shoulder. Until it's over, yes. And when will it be over? After tonight. One way or another, the war ends tonight. They went downstairs to where 2 cars were waiting. Tommy and another guard were already in the first vehicle. Victor got behind the wheel of the second. Elena, you're with me, Volkov said. They got in the back seat. Victor pulled out, Tommy's car following behind as a security tail. Elena watched the safe house disappear in the side mirror. Another temporary shelter abandoned, another place she could never return to. The new location, she said. Is it safer? Nowhere's completely safe, but it's harder to find, more defensible. That's the best we can do right now. They drove in silence for a while, winding through Chicago's streets. Elena noticed Victor taking a complicated route, doubling back, making random turns, clearly watching for tails. Tell me about the meeting tonight, Elena said. What's actually going to happen? Volkov looked at her. You don't need to know details. I think I do. Especially if something goes wrong and I need to understand why. He considered that. Then, Mikhail's gathered everyone at the riverside. He'll make his pitch, probably around 9. I'm going to interrupt, show them I'm still standing, still in control. Then I'm going to offer them a choice. Stay loyal to me, or go down with Mikhail. And if they choose Mikhail, then things get messy. How messy? The kind where people don't walk out. Elena's stomach twisted. You're going to kill your own brother. If he forces my hand, yes. And Irina? She's smart. She'll see which way the wind's blowing and adapt. Or she'll die trying to prove she's as ruthless as she thinks she is. His voice was cold, detached, like he was discussing business, not murder. This is what it means to rule. Sometimes you have to cut away the rot, even when it's family. I don't know how you live with that. You don't live with it. You just keep moving forward and hope the bodies you leave behind don't haunt you too badly. They pulled up to a building Elena didn't recognize. Older, industrial, probably a converted warehouse. Victor parked in an underground garage, the security gate closing behind them. This is it? Elena asked. This is it. More secure than the last place. Better sightlines, harder to breach. They took an elevator up to the 3rd floor. The apartment was bigger than the safe house. Open floor plan, industrial fixtures, huge windows with heavy shutters already drawn. It looked expensive. Probably a legitimate property, not just a criminal hideout. Make yourself comfortable, Volkov said. I need to prepare for tonight. He disappeared into one of the bedrooms with Victor. Elena could hear them talking in low voices, planning, strategizing. She wandered to the kitchen, found bottled water in the fridge, drank it slowly. Her hands were still shaking slightly from the adrenaline of being chased. Torres's card was still in her pocket. Elena pulled it out, stared at it. Witness protection. A new life. Safety. All she had to do was betray Volkov, turn him over to the FBI, let them dismantle his organization while she disappeared into some anonymous town with her father. It would be so easy. And it would make her exactly the kind of person she'd always despised. Someone who saved themselves by selling out the people who'd protected them. Elena ripped the card in half, then in half again. Dropped the pieces in the trash. She'd made her choice. For better or worse, she was in this now. All the way. Volkov emerged from the bedroom an hour later wearing different clothes. Dark tactical gear, boots, a vest that looked bulletproof. He looked dangerous. Professional. Like someone who'd done this 100 times before. You're leaving soon, Elena said. Not a question. In about an hour, Victor's coordinating with our people, making sure we've got the element of surprise. And if you don't, if Mikhail knows you're coming, then I adapt. That's what I do. He checked his weapons methodically. Guns, knife, extra magazines. There's something I need you to do while I'm gone. What? He pulled out a phone, different from his regular one. If you don't hear from me by midnight, call this number. Victor's arranged transport. He'll get you out of the city, set you up somewhere safe. Don't come looking for me. Don't try to be a hero, just run. Elena stared at the phone. You think you're going to die tonight. I think it's a possibility. So I'm planning for it, that's all. And if you die, what happens to Mikhail, to Irina? Then they win, and you need to be very far away when that happens. He pressed the phone into her hand. Promise me, if midnight comes and you haven't heard from me, you run. I can't promise that. Elena, no. You don't get to ask me to abandon you, not after everything. They stared at each other. Volkov looked frustrated, maybe even scared, but there was something else in his expression too. Something softer. You're stubborn, he said. So I've been told. It's going to get you killed someday. Maybe, but not tonight. Victor appeared in the doorway. We're ready, boss. Volkov nodded, then looked back at Elena. For a moment she thought he was going to say something else, something important, but he just said, stay here, stay safe, don't do anything stupid. Then he was gone. Elena stood alone in the empty apartment, holding a phone she'd promised not to use, and waited for midnight. The apartment felt too quiet after they left. Elena paced, checked her phone, paced some more. 8:30, 9, 9:15. She tried to watch TV but couldn't focus. Tried to eat but had no appetite. Just kept moving, unable to sit still, unable to stop imagining what was happening at that meeting. 9:45. Still nothing. Elena pulled out the phone Volkov had given her. stared at it like it might spontaneously ring with good news. It didn't. 10:30. The waiting was worse than the running had been. At least when people were chasing her, she'd had something to do, some action to take. Now she was just standing here useless while Volkov walked into what could be his execution. 11. Elena's hands were shaking. She set the phone down, picked it up again, set it down. The door burst open. Elena spun around, heart hammering. Tommy stumbled in, blood streaming from a cut above his eye, gun still in his hand. "We need to go," he gasped. "Now." "What happened? Where's Volkov?" "Ambush. They were waiting for us. Someone tipped them off." Tommy grabbed her arm. "I said we need to go now. I'm not leaving without—" "He's not coming. Victor's dead. Half our team is dead. Boss told me to get you out if things went bad." "Well, things went bad." Elena felt the world tilt sideways. "Victor's dead?" "Shot in the first 30 seconds. They had snipers positioned. We walked right into it." Tommy was pulling her toward the door. "Volkov's pinned down inside the building with maybe 3 guys left. He can't get out. So my job is getting you somewhere safe before Mikhail's people find this place." "No." Elena yanked her arm free. "We have to go back. We have to help him. There's no helping him. It's over." "Then I'll go myself." Tommy grabbed her again, harder this time. "Listen to me. The boss gave me one order. Keep you alive. I already failed everyone else tonight. I'm not failing him too." "Let me go." "No." "You want to die? You want everything he did tonight to be for nothing? Because that's what happens if you go back there. You die, and he dies knowing he couldn't save you." The words hit like a slap. Elena stopped struggling. "How long does he have?" she asked quietly. "I don't know. Minutes, maybe. They were moving in heavy when I left." Tommy's voice cracked slightly. "He knew this might happen. He planned for it. Made me promise I'd get you out." Elena felt tears burning behind her eyes, but refused to let them fall. "Where are we going?" "Safe house across town. After that, I don't know. My orders only went that far." They took the stairs down to the garage. Tommy's car was parked near the exit, engine already running like he'd left it ready for a fast escape. Elena got in the passenger seat. Her mind was numb, unable to process what she'd just heard. Victor dead. Volkov trapped. Everything falling apart. Tommy drove fast but controlled, constantly checking mirrors. "You armed?" he asked. "No." He pulled a pistol from his jacket, handed it to her. "Safety's here. Point and pull the trigger if anyone tries to hurt you. Don't overthink it." Elena took the gun. It was heavier than she'd expected, cold. She'd never held a weapon before, never thought she'd need to. "How did they know?" she asked. "How did Mikhail know you were coming?" "Someone talked. Someone always talks. Money, threats, promises. Everyone breaks eventually." Tommy took a hard turn. "Boss thought he'd cleaned house. Guess he missed someone." They drove for 20 minutes, winding through streets Elena didn't recognize. Tommy kept up a constant surveillance routine, checking mirrors, varying speed, taking random turns to see if anyone followed. Finally, they pulled into a residential neighborhood. Nice houses, neat lawns, the kind of place where people lived normal lives and didn't think about crime lords and gang wars. Tommy parked in front of a modest 2-story. "This one. Owner's out of town. Owes the boss a favor. We can lay low here until I hear from someone." They got out. Elena was halfway to the front door when she heard it. The high whine of an engine pushed too hard. Headlights flooded the street. "Run!" Tommy shoved her toward the house. Elena ran. Behind her, she heard car doors slam, shouts. Tommy's gun going off. 3 shots in rapid succession. She reached the front door. Locked. Of course it was locked. "Under the mat!" Tommy yelled. Elena flipped the doormat, found the key, fumbled it into the lock. More gunshots behind her. She got the door open, stumbled inside. Tommy came through right after her, kicked the door shut. His shoulder was bleeding now too, fresh blood soaking through his shirt. "Back door!" he gasped. "Go!" But Elena could see more lights pulling up outside, front and back. They were surrounded. "Upstairs," she said, making a split-second decision. "We go up. We have the high ground." Tommy looked at her like she was crazy. Then he nodded. "Okay, yeah, okay." They took the stairs 2 at a time, found a bedroom with a good view of the street. Tommy immediately moved to the window, weapon raised. How many? Elena asked. 6 vehicles, maybe 15 guys. He looked at her. You know how to use that gun I gave you? Point and shoot, you said. Yeah, well, you're about to get practice. The front door crashed open downstairs. Heavy footsteps. Multiple people moving through the house. Tommy positioned himself behind the bed, using the frame as cover. Elena crouched beside him, the pistol gripped in both hands like she'd seen in movies. Her heart was beating so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. They're coming up, Tommy whispered. The footsteps on the stairs were careful, measured, professional. Not random thugs, but trained people who knew what they were doing. The bedroom door kicked open. Tommy fired first. The muzzle flash was blinding in the dark room. Someone screamed. Return fire tore through the doorway, splintering wood, punching holes in the drywall. Elena squeezed her eyes shut and pulled the trigger. The recoil shocked her, much harder than she'd expected. The gun kicked back, nearly flew out of her hands. She had no idea if she'd hit anything. Keep shooting, Tommy yelled. She did. Just pointed in the general direction of the door and pulled the trigger again. And again. Until the gun clicked empty. Tommy was still firing, controlled bursts, making every shot count. But there were too many of them. For every one that fell back, 2 more appeared. Out the window, Tommy said. There's a roof below. Jump to it, then get to the street. Run and don't look back. What about you? I'll hold them as long as I can. Give you a head start. Tommy, go. Elena didn't want to. Every instinct screamed at her to stay, to fight, to not abandon another person who was trying to save her life. But Tommy was already moving toward the door, laying down covering fire, creating space for her to escape. Elena ran to the window, shoved it open. The roof below was maybe 8 feet down. She could make that jump. Probably. She climbed onto the sill, looked back one last time. Tommy was silhouetted in the doorway, firing methodically, a figure making his last stand. Thank you, Elena said, even though he probably couldn't hear her over the gunfire. Then she jumped. She hit the lower roof hard, rolled, nearly slid off the edge, managed to grab the gutter, stopped herself. Above her, the shooting continued, then stopped abruptly. Silence. Elena didn't wait to find out why. She scrambled across the roof to where it met the neighboring house, dropped down to a fence, then to the ground. Her ankle twisted when she landed, but held. She ran. Behind her, men were shouting. Flashlight beams swept the darkness. Someone had seen her. Elena cut through yards, jumped more fences, her lungs burning. She could hear pursuit but didn't look back. Just kept moving, kept running, kept fighting for every second of distance. She burst out onto a street she didn't recognize, empty except for parked cars. She picked a direction at random and sprinted. Half a block, full block. Her ankle was screaming now, each step sending sharp pain up her leg. But she couldn't stop. Stopping meant dying. Headlights behind her. Elena looked wildly around for somewhere to hide. There, an alley between buildings. She dove into it, pressed herself against the wall in the shadows. The car slowed, stopped, door opened. I know you're here, Irina's voice. Calm, almost bored. Come out, Elena. Let's talk like civilized people. Elena held her breath. The empty gun was still in her hand, useless now, but she gripped it anyway. I don't want to kill you, Irina continued. Believe it or not, I actually respect what you did. That note took guts. But you made a mistake picking Adrian's side. Now you have to pay for it. Footsteps, getting closer. Elena looked around frantically. The alley was a dead end. Brick wall at the back, dumpsters, nowhere to run. She was trapped. Tell you what, Irina said. You come out now, I'll make it quick. You make me chase you, I'll make sure it hurts. The footsteps were right at the alley entrance now. Any second, Irina would see her. Elena's hand closed on something, broken brick, half buried in trash. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. She waited until Irina was 3 steps into the alley. Then she threw the brick as hard as she could. It caught Irina in the shoulder. Not a devastating hit, but enough to make her stumble, enough to create an opening. Elena charged. She'd never been in a real fight in her life. Had no training, no technique, just desperation and rage and the absolute refusal to die in an alley like a hunted animal. She tackled Irina, and they went down hard on the concrete. Irina's gun went skittering away. Elena tried to pin her, but Irina was stronger, faster, knew how to fight. Irina flipped them over, got on top, hands closing around Elena's throat. "Stupid girl," Irina hissed. "Did you really think you could win?" Elena couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in her vision. She clawed at Irina's hands, her face, anything she could reach. Her fingers found Irina's eyes. Elena dug her nails in as hard as she could. Irina screamed, "Let go!" Elena shoved her off, gasped for air. Her throat felt crushed. Everything hurt. But she was alive. She spotted Irina's gun 3 feet away, lunged for it. Irina got there first. They struggled, both hands on the weapon, rolling across the filthy alley floor. Irina was trying to aim it. Elena was trying to keep it pointed anywhere else. The gun went off. The sound was deafening. For a moment, Elena didn't know who'd been shot. Then she felt the wetness, warm, spreading across her side. She'd been hit. Irina smiled through bloody lips. "Told you I'd make it hurt." She raised the gun for a kill shot. Another shot rang out. Irina's expression went blank. She looked down at the red flower blooming on her chest, confused. Then she toppled sideways. Elena looked up. Volkov stood at the alley entrance, gun raised, looking like he'd fought his way through hell to get there. Blood on his face, his clothes torn, favoring his left leg, but alive. "Adrian," Elena managed to whisper. He holstered his weapon and came to her, moved Irina's body aside, knelt down. "Let me see." Elena tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her side. "I thought, Tommy said you were—" "Tommy got me out. Sacrificed himself buying me time." His jaw was tight. "Show me where you're hit." Elena lifted her shirt. There was a lot of blood, but when Volkov examined the wound, his expression relaxed slightly. "Graze. Deep one, but it didn't go through. You'll need stitches, but you'll live." "Victor?" Elena asked, even though she already knew. "Gone. Along with 8 others. Mikhail knew we were coming, had the whole thing planned." Volkov's voice was hollow. "It was a massacre." "How did you get out?" "Killed my way out, then tracked you using the phone I gave you. It has a GPS chip. Got here just in time." He helped her sit up carefully. "Can you walk?" "I think so." He pulled her to her feet. Elena's side screamed in protest, but she stayed upright. Barely. They heard sirens in the distance. Someone had called the cops. "We need to move," Volkov said. "My car's 2 blocks over. Think you can make it?" "Do I have a choice?" "No." They left Irina's body in the alley and walked as quickly as Elena could manage. Every step hurt. Her ankle was swelling, her side was on fire, and she was pretty sure she had a concussion from hitting the roof. But she was alive. Volkov's car was exactly where he said it would be. Black SUV, probably stolen based on how he'd hotwired it. He helped Elena into the passenger seat, then got behind the wheel. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere Mikhail won't think to look. I've got one place left he doesn't know about." "And then what, we just hide forever?" Volkov started the engine. "No, then I end this. Permanently." They drove through Chicago's night streets. Elena watched the city slide past, everything familiar but completely changed. She'd lived here her whole life. Now it felt foreign, dangerous, like enemy territory. "You should have left me," she said quietly. "You could have escaped, but you came back. Told you I'd protect you. I keep my promises. Even when it costs you everything? Especially then." He glanced at her. "Victor was right about one thing. You're a liability. But you're also the only person in the last 2 days who hasn't lied to me, hasn't betrayed me, hasn't tried to kill me. That's worth protecting." Elena leaned her head against the window. "Your brother's going to keep coming, isn't he?" "Until one of us is dead, yes." "So what's the plan?" "Mikhail thinks he won tonight, thinks he broke me, which means he'll let his guard down. Get cocky, that's when I'll hit him." "Hit him how?" Volkov was quiet for a moment. Then, "There's a wedding tomorrow night." "His wedding. He's marrying some politician's daughter, consolidating power, building legitimacy. Half the city's elite will be there. Important people, cameras, witnesses." "You're going to crash his wedding?" "I'm going to end this war at his wedding, very publicly, very permanently." Elena processed that. "You'll be outnumbered, outgunned." "Probably." "You could die." "Also probably." Then it's a suicide mission. It's the only option I have left. He's taken everything else, my organization, my people, my territory. But he can't take my ability to choose how this ends. He looked at her. Which is why you're not coming. I'm going to drop you somewhere safe. Give you money, documentation, everything you need to disappear. Victor set it up before. No. Elena, I said no. You don't get to decide this for me. This isn't your fight. It stopped being not my fight when Irina tried to strangle me in an alley, when Tommy died buying me time, when I watched Victor get killed in your place. Elena turned to face him fully, ignoring the pain in her side. You want to storm a wedding and take down your brother? Fine, but I'm coming with you. You have no training. You'll get yourself killed. Maybe. But I'm done running. I'm done being the victim everyone has to save. If this is ending tomorrow, then I'm going to be there when it does. Volkov looked like he wanted to argue, but something in her expression must have convinced him she wasn't backing down. You're insane, he said finally. Probably. Guess I learned from the best. They drove to a warehouse district Elena had never been to. Industrial buildings, most of them abandoned or converted to artist lofts. Volkov pulled into a loading bay and killed the engine. This is it? Elena asked. This is it. Last place Mikhail doesn't know about. Used to be our father's. He kept it off the books. They went inside. The warehouse had been converted into a surprisingly comfortable space. Furniture, a kitchen, even a bedroom. Clearly someone had been maintaining it. Volkov went straight to a wall panel, pressed something. The panel swung open, revealing an arsenal. Guns. Lots of guns. Plus ammunition, body armor, tactical gear, even what looked like grenades. Your father was prepared, Elena said. My father survived 3 wars and 4 attempted coups. He understood the value of contingency plans. Volkov started pulling weapons out, checking them. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be hell. What about you? I need a plan. Figure out how to get into the venue, where to position, what our exit strategy is, assuming we get an exit. Optimistic. Realistic. He set down a pistol, looked at her. Last chance to back out. I won't think less of you if you do. Elena walked to the arsenal, picked up a smaller handgun. Show me how to use this properly. If I'm going to help tomorrow, I need to know what I'm doing. For the next 3 hours, Volkov taught her the basics. How to grip the weapon, how to aim, how to breathe through the shot, how to reload quickly, how to clear a jam, how to move with the gun instead of fighting it. Elena's hands were sore by the time they finished, her arms shaking from the repetition. But she could hit a target now. Not perfectly, not every time, but enough. You're not bad, Volkov admitted. Natural steadiness. Most people can't control their breathing under pressure. I spent 3 years waiting tables. You learn to stay calm when people are yelling at you. This will be different. I know. He showed her the body armor next. How to wear it, how it would restrict her movement, where it would and wouldn't protect her. Anything below the waist is vulnerable. Headshots will kill you instantly, and if you take multiple hits to the chest, the armor will crack. After that, you're on your own. Comforting. I'm not trying to comfort you. I'm trying to keep you alive. They finally stopped around 4 in the morning. Elena's wound had been cleaned and bandaged. Volkov had field medic training, apparently, and she'd changed into clean clothes from a storage locker. Sleep, Volkov ordered. We leave at 7 tomorrow night. The wedding starts at 8. Elena went to the bedroom but couldn't sleep. She lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about what was coming. A wedding that would turn into a war zone. A last desperate gamble to take down a man who'd already won. She thought about her father. He'd be so scared right now, so confused about where she'd gone. Maybe it was better that way. Better he didn't know what she was about to do. Around 6, she gave up on sleep and went back out to the main room. Volkov was still awake, sitting at a table covered in blueprints and photos. He'd showered at some point. His hair was damp, and he'd changed into clean tactical gear. Couldn't sleep? He asked without looking up. No, you? I don't sleep before operations. Adrenaline won't let me. Elena sat down across from him. Show me the plan. He did. The venue was a historic mansion on the north side. Multiple entrances, but all would be heavily guarded. Volkov's idea was to use the catering service, infiltrate his staff, get inside before security locked down. Once we're in, we wait until the ceremony. That's when everyone will be focused on Mikhail and his bride. We move during the vows, chaos, confusion, everyone packed together. I confront Mikhail publicly, force him to respond. And then? Then it gets messy. His people will try to protect him. Mine, whoever's left, will back me up. It'll be a bloodbath. You have people left? Some. Not many, but enough to make a statement. He looked at her seriously. This is your last chance to walk away, Elena. Once we start this, there's no going back. You'll be marked forever. Even if we win, even if we survive, you'll never be safe again. You understand that? I understand. Say it. Say you understand what you're choosing. I understand that I'm choosing to fight. I understand that I might die. And I understand that if I don't do this, I'll spend the rest of my life running and hiding and wishing I'd had the courage to stand up when it mattered. Volkov studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, then tomorrow we go to war. They spent the rest of the day preparing, checking weapons, going over the plan, memorizing the mansion's layout. Volkov made a few calls to people Elena didn't know, speaking in rapid Russian, setting pieces in motion. 7 o'clock came too quickly. They loaded up, weapons concealed under catering uniforms, fake IDs, everything they needed to get inside. Volkov had even arranged for a delivery van with the legitimate catering company's logo. Ready? He asked as they got in the van. Elena checked her weapon one more time, made sure the safety was on. No, but let's go anyway. They drove toward the mansion, toward Mikhail, toward an ending written in blood. Elena watched the city pass by the window and thought about the note she'd written 3 days ago. 4 words that had started everything. Your fiancé will kill you. She'd thought she was saving one man's life. Instead, she'd ignited a war. And now she was riding into the heart of it, armed and dangerous, no longer a victim, but a fighter. Tomorrow, she'd either be dead or free. There was no middle ground left. The mansion glowed like something out of a dream or a nightmare, depending on which side of the gates you stood on. White stone, sprawling gardens, every window blazing with warm light. Luxury cars lined the circular driveway, dropping off guests in designer gowns and tailored suits. Security was everywhere, earpieces and bulges under jackets barely concealed. Elena sat in the back of the catering van, her heart hammering against her ribs. The body armor felt heavy under her white server's uniform. The gun tucked into the small of her back felt heavier. Remember, Volkov said quietly from the driver's seat, we're invisible until we're not. Move like you belong. Don't make eye contact with security, and whatever happens, stay close to me. What if we get separated? Then you get out. Don't try to be a hero. Just survive. Elena wanted to argue, but knew he was right. She wasn't trained for this. She was a waitress with 3 hours of firearms instruction, walking into a war zone because she was too stubborn to accept that some battles weren't hers to fight. Except it was her battle now. Had been since the moment she'd written that note. They pulled up to the service entrance. A security guard approached, clipboard in hand. Volkov rolled down the window, handed over forged credentials. Catering delivery. We're running late. Had an issue with the ovens. The guard checked the paperwork, peered into the back of the van. Elena forced herself to breathe normally, to look bored and tired like an actual server working a rich person's wedding would look. You're clear, the guard finally said. Bay 3. Unload quickly. Ceremony starts in 20 minutes. They drove through. Volkov parked in the loading area next to 2 other catering vans. Through the open bay doors, Elena could see the kitchen, chaos of chefs and servers, steam and shouting, the organized madness of high-end event catering. We go in with the food, Volkov said. Blend with the real staff. Once we're inside, I'll position you near the east exit. That's your escape route if things go sideways. And you? I'll be wherever Mikhail is. They grabbed serving trays from the van, real food, part of the actual catering order Volkov had somehow intercepted and replaced with his own people. Elena balanced a tray of champagne flutes and followed him inside. The kitchen heat hit like a wall. Servers rushed past carrying hors d'oeuvres and wine. A chef screamed at someone about underdone salmon. Elena kept her head down and moved with the flow, just another anonymous worker in the machine. They pushed through double doors into the mansion proper. The transformation was immediate, from the utilitarian chaos of the kitchen to the elegant opulence of old money. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, artwork that probably cost more than Elena would earn in her lifetime. Guests mingled in the grand hall, drinking and laughing, unaware that death had just walked in wearing a server's uniform. "There," Volkov murmured, nodding toward the far end of the hall. Mikhail stood surrounded by well-wishers shaking hands, accepting congratulations. He looked exactly like his brother, same sharp features, same cold eyes, but there was something meaner in his face. A cruelty that Adrian had learned to hide, but Mikhail wore openly. Next to him, his bride looked terrified. Early 20s, beautiful in the way money could manufacture, smiling a smile that didn't reach her eyes. A political marriage, Elena realized. Some powerful family's daughter traded like currency for alliances and influence. "Poor girl," Elena whispered. She knew what she was signing up for, Volkov said, but his voice was tight. Even he felt something for the woman about to become his brother's wife. They circulated through the crowd, offering champagne, blending in. Elena kept her eyes down, playing her role, but she was hyper-aware of everything around her. The security positions, the exit points, the faces in the crowd that looked wrong, too alert, too ready. Men pretending to be guests, but clearly there for violence. Mikhail had his own army here. "East exit," Volkov said quietly as they passed each other. "Go now. Position yourself and wait for my signal." Elena nodded and drifted toward the indicated door. It led to a side corridor, less crowded, lined with portraits of dead rich people staring down with judging eyes. She set down her serving tray and checked her weapon. Still there. Still loaded. Safety off now. Music started in the main hall. The ceremony was beginning. Elena moved to where she could see through the doorway. Mikhail and his bride stood before an officiant, surrounded by hundreds of witnesses. The room had gone quiet, expectant, everyone playing their part in the theater of legitimacy. Then she saw him. Volkov had shed his server's uniform. Now he wore a dark suit, no tie, looking every inch the crime lord he was. He walked through the crowd like he owned the room, which, in a way, he did. These were his people, his territory, his birthright that Mikhail had tried to steal. Security noticed him immediately. Hands went to weapons. But Volkov raised his empty hands, kept walking, kept moving toward the front of the room. "Brother," he called out. His voice carried in the sudden silence. "You didn't invite me to your wedding?" The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, people scrambling away from the danger they suddenly recognized. Security was moving in, but Mikhail raised a hand, stopped them. "Adrian." Mikhail's smile was sharp as broken glass. "I didn't think you'd be alive to attend." Disappointed? More surprised than anything. I had 15 men at that warehouse. How many did you kill on your way out? 14. The last one I let live, so he could tell you I was coming. Mikhail laughed. Actually laughed. Always dramatic. Even when you're losing, you have to make a show of it. I'm not losing. I'm ending this. By doing what? You've got no army left, no territory, no power. You're a ghost, Adrian. You just haven't realized you're dead yet. Volkov took another step forward. Security tensed, but didn't intervene. This was personal, between brothers, and everyone in the room understood that sometimes you had to let family business play out. "You betrayed everything our father built," Volkov said. "Everything he taught us about honor, about loyalty. You spat on his grave." "Our father was a fool," Mikhail shot back, clinging to old codes, old rules. The world moved on. He didn't. And you're just like him, stuck in the past, too afraid to take what's yours. I'm not afraid. I just have principles. Principles don't build empires. Violence does. Power does. And I have both. Volkov's expression didn't change. Then let's settle this. You and me. No armies, no politics. Just brothers, the way it should have been from the start. Mikhail considered that. Then he nodded slowly. Fine. But when I kill you, everyone here witnesses it. No question about who's in charge. He turned to his security. Clear a space. My brother and I are going to have a conversation. The guests scrambled back, creating a rough circle in the center of the hall. Mikhail stepped into it, shrugged off his jacket. Underneath, he wore a shoulder holster with a pistol. Volkov did the same. They stood 15 feet apart, two men who'd shared blood and history, now about to end one or both of their lives. Any last words? Mikhail asked. Yeah, you should have killed me when you had the chance. They moved simultaneously. Both drew, both fired. The shots were impossibly loud in the enclosed space. Mikhail's bullet caught Volkov in the shoulder, spun him halfway around. Volkov's shot hit Mikhail's center mass, but body armor stopped it. They both stayed standing. Mikhail fired again. Missed. The bullet shattered a chandelier, sent crystal raining down. Volkov returned fire, hitting Mikhail in the leg. Mikhail went down on one knee, but didn't drop his weapon. "Not bad," Mikhail grunted. "Father would be proud. Father would be ashamed of what you've become. Father's dead. His opinion doesn't matter anymore." They fired again, simultaneously. Both shots found their targets. Volkov took one to the chest. Armor caught it, but the impact knocked him back. Mikhail took one to the neck, just above the armor line. Blood sprayed. Mikhail's eyes went wide, his hand moving to the wound. Too much blood. Too fast. He was trying to speak, but only managed a wet gurgle. He fell forward onto the marble floor. For a moment, nobody moved. Everyone just stared at Mikhail's body, at the spreading pool of red, processing what they'd just witnessed. Then someone screamed. Security erupted into action, but they were split, unsure. Half moved toward Volkov. Half looked at each other, suddenly questioning who they were supposed to be protecting now that the man who'd been paying them was dead. Elena saw it all from her position by the door, saw Volkov standing there, wounded, surrounded by armed men, looking like he might collapse at any second. She made a decision. She stepped into the room, raised her weapon. "Everyone back away from him. Now!" It was insane. She was one person with a pistol facing down a dozen trained killers, but her voice didn't shake. Her hands stayed steady. And maybe it was the shock of everything that had just happened. Or maybe it was the sheer audacity of a waitress ordering around professional criminals. But people actually listened. Security backed up, gave her space. Elena moved to Volkov's side. "Can you walk?" "Yeah." Armor took most of it. He was breathing hard, clearly in pain, but functional. "We need to leave, before they decide to kill us both." But before they could move, one of Mikhail's security team stepped forward. Not threatening, his weapon was lowered. He looked at the body, then at Volkov. "He hired us 2 weeks ago," the man said. "Promised us double what you were paying. Said you were finished, that he was the future." He paused. "But you're still standing, and he's not." "So?" Volkov asked. "So I'm smart enough to know which side to be on. You're offering our jobs back?" Volkov studied him, then nodded. "Same terms as before. Loyalty in exchange for protection and pay. But if you ever betray me again—" "We won't. You've got our word." Other security personnel were nodding, lowering weapons, making the same calculation. Mikhail's death had created a power vacuum, and Volkov was filling it before their eyes. "Clear the room," Volkov ordered. "Get the civilians out. Secure the perimeter. And someone deal with that body." They moved immediately, following orders, falling back into familiar patterns. The guests were ushered out, some crying, some in shock, all probably calling their lawyers. The bride had disappeared, smart enough to run the moment bullets started flying. Within 10 minutes, the hall was empty except for Volkov's newly reclaimed people. Victor's second-in-command appeared, a woman Elena hadn't met before, tall and severe-looking. "Boss, we've got 15 confirmed loyal, another 20 who will probably come back once word spreads. Mikhail's operation is collapsing. His key people are either dead or running." "And Marchetti?" Volkov asked. "Already reached out. Says the deal with Mikhail is void. He's willing to renegotiate the truce." "Tell him I'll be in touch, after I've cleaned up this mess." The woman nodded, then looked at Elena with curiosity. "Who's this?" "The person who saved my life. Multiple times. She's under my protection. Anyone touches her, they answer to me personally." "Understood." Volkov turned to Elena. "Come on, let's get out of here before the police show up." They walked out the front entrance this time. No more sneaking, no more hiding. Volkov had won. The war was over. They drove in silence for a while. Volkov's shoulder was bleeding through his shirt, but he drove steady, one-handed, like he'd done it before. Probably had. "Where are we going?" Elena finally asked. "Hospital, then somewhere you can rest, then—" He stopped. "Then I don't know. We figure it out. Your organization, you got it back. Most of it. Enough." He glanced at her. "You know what you did back there? Stepping out with your weapon, protecting me? That was either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. Definitely both. But he was almost smiling. You've got nerve, I'll give you that. They stopped at a private clinic, the kind that didn't ask questions and didn't report gunshot wounds. A doctor Elena didn't know patched them both up. Volkov's shoulder wound was serious but manageable. Elena's side had reopened during the fight, needed fresh stitches. Her ankle was badly sprained but not broken. You'll live, the doctor told her. But you need rest, actual rest, not the kind where you fight crime lords. I'll keep that in mind. After the clinic, Volkov drove them to yet another location. This one, a penthouse apartment overlooking the lake. It looked expensive, untouched, like a place kept ready for emergencies. This was our father's, Volkov explained as they entered. He bought it years ago under a shell company. Mikhail never knew about it. The view was stunning. Chicago spread out below, lights twinkling in the darkness like trapped stars. Elena stood at the window, looking out at the city she'd lived in her whole life. It looked different now, like she'd crossed some invisible border and could never go back to seeing it the way she used to. What happens now? She asked. Volkov was pouring drinks at the bar. Now I rebuild. Call in the people who stayed loyal. Make examples of the ones who didn't. Re-establish control. He handed her a glass. Standard procedure after a coup attempt. And me? He was quiet for a moment. That's your choice. I can set you up with a new identity, relocate you somewhere safe. Your father, too. You'd be protected, comfortable. You could start over. Or you could stay. Work with me. I need people I can trust, and trust is in short supply these days. He met her eyes. You'd have a place in my organization, real power, real protection, a life, even if it's not the one you had before. Elena sipped her drink, thinking. A week ago, her biggest concern had been making rent. Now she was standing in a luxury penthouse, drinking expensive whiskey, deciding whether to become part of a criminal empire. What would I do? She asked. Whatever you're good at. You proved tonight you can handle pressure. You think fast. You're not afraid to act when it matters. Those are rare qualities. I'm not a criminal. Neither am I. I'm a businessman who operates outside legal frameworks. There's a difference. Is there, though? Volkov smiled. Sometimes I wonder, but yeah, I think there is. I don't hurt people for fun. I don't prey on the weak. I just run a business in a world that doesn't have room for people like me to run legitimate businesses. Elena walked back to the window. My father. If I stay, he needs the best care possible. The facility he's in now is good, but there are better ones. Places that cost 10 times what I could ever afford. Done. I'll have him transferred tomorrow. Top-tier facility, private room, whatever he needs. And I want to visit him. Regularly. No hiding, no fake identities. He's confused enough already without me pretending to be someone else. I can arrange security, discreet, but effective. And I want out if I ever decide this isn't for me. A clean exit. No retribution, no punishment, just done. Volkov hesitated. That's not how this usually works. I'm not usual. You said so yourself. He considered that, then nodded. Fine. You stay as long as you want. If you decide to leave, I'll set you up with everything you need to disappear safely. No strings. Elena turned to face him. Then I'm in. At least for now. Until I figure out who I'm supposed to be in this new life. Something shifted in Volkov's expression. Relief, maybe? Or gratitude. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I have no idea what I'm doing. None of us do. We just pretend better than most. They stood there for a moment. Two survivors of a war neither had wanted, bound together by circumstances and choices that couldn't be unmade. Elena thought about the note again. 4 simple words that had started everything. She'd thought she was saving a stranger's life. Instead, she'd saved her own. Not from death, from the slow suffocation of a life that had been too small, too scared, too limited. I should call my father, she said. Let him know I'm okay. Use my phone, it's more secure. Elena dialed the care facility. It took a few minutes to get through to her father's room. Elena? His voice sounded small, worried. Yeah, Dad, it's me. Where have you been? They said you couldn't visit. I was scared something happened. I'm okay. I just had to deal with some things. But I'm going to visit tomorrow, I promise. You sure? You sound different. Sound Elena glanced at Volkov, at the bandages visible under his shirt, at the world she'd just chosen to be part of. I am different, but I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. And Dad, I found a new place for you, a better facility, more staff, better care. You're going to love it. You don't have to do that. I'm fine where I am. I want to. Let me do this for you. A pause, then, you're not in trouble, are you? No, Dad, I'm not in trouble. I'm just learning how to be stronger, how to take care of us. Okay, I believe you. Come see me soon, Mija. Tomorrow, I promise. She hung up, handed the phone back to Volkov. He sounds like a good man, Volkov said. He is. Best man I know. Raised me by himself after my mom died. Worked 3 jobs sometimes just to keep us fed. He taught me everything important. Elena felt tears threatening, but pushed them back. He taught me to help people when I could, even when it was risky, even when it might cost me. That's why you wrote the note. Yeah, that's why I wrote the note. They were quiet for a while. Then Volkov said, I'm going to rebuild this organization differently, more carefully. With people who understand that loyalty isn't just about money, it's about principle, about doing things the right way, even in a world that's fundamentally wrong. You think that's possible? I have to think it's possible. Otherwise, what's the point? We're just animals tearing each other apart for scraps. Elena understood what he was trying to say, even if he was saying it badly, that there was a way to survive in a dark world without becoming completely dark yourself, that you could make compromises without losing yourself entirely. It wasn't idealism. It was something more fragile and more valuable, the stubborn refusal to become the monster everyone expected you to be. Over the next few weeks, Elena watched Volkov rebuild his empire. It was fascinating and terrifying in equal measure. People came to the penthouse, lieutenants, enforcers, people whose names she didn't know and probably didn't want to. They talked in code about shipments and territories and people who needed to be handled. Elena mostly stayed out of it. She visited her father at his new facility, a beautiful place with gardens and art therapy and staff who actually seemed to care. His confusion was getting worse, but he had good days. Days when he recognized her, when they could talk and laugh like they used to. She learned the organization's structure. Who did what? Who could be trusted? Who was still proving themselves? Volkov gave her small tasks at first, managing communications, coordinating schedules, nothing illegal, just learning how things worked. You're good at this, he told her one evening. They were going over ledgers, the legitimate ones, not the ones that would send them to prison. You see patterns other people miss. I waited tables for 5 years. You learn to read people, predict what they need before they ask. It's more than that. You understand systems, how pieces fit together. He closed the ledger. I want you to take over operations management, coordinate between departments, make sure information flows properly. That sounds important. It is. It's the backbone of everything we do. Without good operations, empires collapse. Elena thought about that. A month ago, she'd been scraping by, invisible, powerless. Now someone was offering her real responsibility, real power. I'll do it, she said, but I need real authority. If I'm managing operations, people have to know I speak for you. Done. I'll make it clear. And he did. Word spread quickly through the organization. Elena Cross was not to be dismissed, not to be underestimated, not to be touched. She was Volkov's right hand, his trusted advisor, someone with power in her own right. Some people resented it. A waitress given authority over men who'd been in the life for decades. But Volkov shut that down fast, made it clear that anyone who disrespected Elena was disrespecting him. After that, people fell in line. 3 months after the wedding, Elena was sitting in a strategy meeting when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Still think you made the right choice? She knew that number, FBI agent Torres. Elena showed the text to Volkov. She's been persistent, he said. Called 4 times, sent 6 emails. I've been ignoring her. Should I respond? Do you want to? Elena thought about it, then typed. Yes. I made the right choice. I chose to stop being a victim. Thanks for the offer, though. She deleted Torres's number and put her phone away. No regrets? Volkov asked. Some, but not about this. not about choosing to be strong instead of safe. 6 months in, Elena had fully transformed. She dressed differently now, still herself, but more polished, more confident. She carried herself like someone who knew her worth. People listened when she spoke, respected her opinions, feared her sometimes, which was strange but useful. She and Volkov had developed an odd sort of partnership. Not quite friends, not quite family, but something in between. A bond forged in violence and survival, tempered by mutual respect. "You ever think about what your life would have been like if you hadn't written that note?" he asked one evening. They were on the penthouse balcony, watching the sunset paint Chicago gold. "Sometimes. I'd probably still be waiting tables, still struggling to pay rent, still invisible." "You regret it?" Elena looked at him. At the man who'd been a stranger a year ago and was now… what? Her partner. Her protector. Maybe something more, though neither of them had examined that too closely. "No," she said honestly. "I don't regret it. My life before was safe, but it was also small. I was surviving, not living. Now I'm actually alive. Even with all the danger, all the complications, I'm alive in a way I never was before." "That's the thing people don't understand about this life," Volkov said. "They think we're monsters, and some of us are. But most of us? We're just people who refuse to be powerless, who chose to take control, even if it meant breaking rules that were never designed to protect people like us anyway." It wasn't justification exactly, more like explanation, an attempt to make sense of choices that couldn't be unmade. Elena understood. She was living proof that sometimes the right choice and the good choice weren't the same thing. Sometimes you had to choose survival over morality, power over safety. Sometimes you had to become someone you never thought you'd be, just to avoid becoming someone you couldn't live with. A year after the note, Elena visited her father on his birthday. He was having a good day, remembered her name, remembered the cake she'd brought, even managed to blow out the candles. "I'm proud of you, mija," he said suddenly. "For what?" "For being strong. I always knew you were, but now everyone knows." Elena felt tears sting her eyes. "I learned from you, Dad. Everything I am, it's because you taught me how to fight, how to survive." "I taught you how to survive, but you taught yourself how to thrive. That's all you. That's all Elena." After the visit, she sat in her car for a long time, crying. Not from sadness, but from something more complicated. Grief for the person she used to be. Pride in who she'd become, understanding that both things could be true at once. Her phone rang. "Volkov, where are you?" he asked. "Visiting Dad. Heading back now." "Come to the office first. Something I want to show you." She drove to their headquarters, a legitimate office building where they ran several legal businesses that functioned as fronts for the less legal operations. Volkov was in his corner office, standing by the window. "What's up?" Elena asked. He handed her a folder. Inside were property deeds, bank statements, legal documents, all in her name. "What is this?" she asked. "Your safety net. Properties in 3 cities, accounts in your name, investments that can't be traced back to me. If anything happens, if I die, if the organization falls apart, if you need to run, you have resources. You're not dependent on me." Elena looked up at him, shocked. "Why would you do this?" "Because I made you a promise that you could leave whenever you wanted. This makes sure that promise is real. You're not trapped here. You choose to stay every day, or you choose to leave. But either way, you're protected." It was the most genuine act of respect anyone had ever shown her. Not love. Their relationship was too complicated for something as simple as love. But respect. Recognition that she was her own person, worthy of autonomy and safety. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Don't thank me. You've earned it 10 times over. You saved my life, helped me rebuild everything I almost lost. You're not an employee, Elena. You're a partner. This just makes it official." They stood there, 2 people who'd found each other in chaos and built something that almost resembled trust. It wasn't perfect. Nothing about their world was perfect. But it was real. And in a life defined by deception and violence, real was precious. Looking back, Elena would think about that note often. 4 words that changed everything. People always talked about butterfly effects, about how small choices could have massive consequences. But they talked about it like it was abstract, theoretical. For Elena, it was concrete, visible. She could trace every moment of her new life back to that single decision to help a stranger. And the lesson she'd learned wasn't some simple moral about doing the right thing. It was more complicated than that, more human. The lesson was that choices define you more than circumstances do, that power isn't something you're given, it's something you take, that survival sometimes requires becoming someone you never imagined being, and that's okay, as long as you hold on to the core of who you are. She'd gone from waitress to crime lord's partner, from invisible to powerful, from victim to fighter. And while she'd lost things along the way, innocence, maybe, or the comfort of clear moral lines, she'd gained something more valuable. She'd gained herself, the version of herself that had always been there, buried under fear and circumstance, waiting for a chance to emerge. Years later, when people asked how she'd ended up running one of Chicago's most sophisticated operations, she'd smile and say something vague about opportunity and timing. She never mentioned the note, never explained that it had all started with a simple act of humanity in a world that discouraged such things. Because the truth was complicated. The truth was that doing the right thing had led her into a morally gray world, that saving a life had taught her how to take them when necessary, that one moment of courage had required her to be courageous every day after. But she wouldn't change it. Even knowing what it would cost, what it would require, who she'd become, she'd write that note again, every single time. Because some things matter more than safety, more than comfort, more than the peaceful ignorance of a life lived small and scared. Some things, like refusing to watch someone die when you could prevent it, like claiming your own power, like choosing who you become instead of letting circumstances choose for you, those things are worth any price. Elena Cross had learned that lesson in Blood and Fire, and she'd carry it for the rest of her life, a reminder that we're all writing our own stories, one choice at a time. And sometimes, the most important choices are the ones we make in seconds, without thinking, guided by nothing but the stubborn insistence that we can be better than what the world expects us to be. That was her truth. Complex, imperfect, undeniably human. And she'd earned every scar, every lesson, every moment of power that came from refusing to be powerless. In the end, maybe that was what survival really meant. Not just staying alive, but staying yourself while everything around you tried to change you. Finding the line between adaptation and surrender. Knowing when to fight and when to transform. Understanding that you could walk through darkness without becoming it, as long as you remembered where you'd started and why. Elena Cross remembered every single day, and that made all the difference.